Of
No,
course.
no problem. No problem. All
Yeah.
right, folks, we're going to be getting started here. I told them while you guys were situating that you typically like their cameras on. So I told them that was their opportune time to go primp, change their shirt, brush their hair, whatever they had to do. Because when your videos are on, we all just feel a little more connected, and then we can pretend we're all there live like we wanted to be
Yeah.
before new regulations and restrictions came back into play. But thank you everyone for being able to just kind of adapt to the new plan so quickly. We're still super excited to be live, like we're there at Cooperstown Chiropractic. So this will be recorded as always. Don't worry if you miss something. I know there's going to be a lot of really great information tonight. Dr. Cooper and Scotty are going to be going through some of what they refer to and what they are miracles that have occurred in their practice, case studies with phenomenal results that they're going to share. And I know some of you have sent in case studies that we'll be kind of reviewing at some point in the presentation, along with the many questions I'm sure are going to arise. So have a notebook ready. I'm sure a lot of protocol questions are going to come up and things like that. So is there anything else you guys want me to kind of share before we get
No, no, I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right, take it away. I'm super excited for this one. I have my stuff ready.
Cool. Nice.
All right, well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And remember, turn your camera on so we can see you. We want you to be a big part. I see our team out there at Life West. Hi, girls.
Oh, yeah.
Those are all of our interns. Those are all of our students. So happy that they joined us. All right, so today we get to talk about just different case studies and just some of the things that we come in contact with that I think they're important for you to know, and important for you to be able to see and to kind of be a part of. And let's just get to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. So we're going to start with one of the packets we give with when someone comes in that's battling cancer. We're going to start with that and then kind of talk about a couple of specific things we did with a few specific patients.
Right. So one of the things too is remember that as a chiropractor, as a nutritionist, you don't necessarily treat cancer. And so that's just not what we do. But what we do is we support that cancer care, because the truth is, if we can identify what's causing it, then fixing it's not so hard. So as you can see, cancer is a very, very adaptogenic organism, and it's got to change as it revive. Statistics that was by 2017, 1 in 2 people will be affected by this. Cancer's got a lot of very specific things. It can live in a little to no oxygen environment. It can adapt to toxins very quickly, and it can adapt to chemogenic therapies very quickly. It can live in real intense radiation settings. And the most significant thing, scroll up just a little bit, is that it only needs sugar to survive. Now, how do we know that? Well, one of the things I want to remind you of is that if you've ever sent or you've ever seen somebody have a PET scan, so a PET scan is actually looking specifically for the activity of the cancer. And in that scenario, you can take a CAT scan and you can take an MRI, but the problem is that's like a still frame photograph. And just the example would be like, if you don't like bugs and there was a bug on the floor and you took a picture of it and you sent it to your friend, they would see the bug on the floor, but what they couldn't tell is whether or not that bug was dead or alive. And so the concern we have about that is that we want to know what part of this cancer is alive and what part of this is just debris. And that's really where we want to be talking first. So the difference in the PET scan is the PET scan allows us to identify what's alive and what's debris. So how does it do it? Well, what they do is they give you this radioactive drink, which is essentially sugar water, because sugar will activate every cancer cell within your body within seconds. And as soon as they start getting excited and start, you know, wiggling around, boy, they're real easy to image. So sugar is always what these things need to survive and to multiply. And again, you know, how serious is this as an issue? Well, you know, your Aunt Susan gets diagnosed and everybody freaks out. And what's the very first thing they bring to her? Sugar, cake,
Cookies.
yeah, cookies, ice cream, like a drumstick, right? And again, the problem that we have with this is just perpetuating this problem. Cancer is not a gene-driven disease. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Now, we do understand that since the invention of the GMOs, the genetically modified food can now drive other gene combinations that we normally would have subdued. But in itself, what we've learned from epigenetics is that cancer is not an epigenetic condition. So just because grandma had it, just because auntie had it, just because mom had it, doesn't mean you have it, and doesn't mean you'll have it. And that's a very, very important point to make.
And that's also a conversation we have in the consultation with patients that are battling any type of crazy dis-ease. We talk about the fact that, like, the analogy you like to use is the one with like the room and like the
Stairway.
like the basement one.
Yeah.
So like what we would say to the patient is, you know, imagine you have at your house, you have this room and the stairway that goes down, and at the bottom it says cancer, or it says diabetes, or it says whatever condition you want to call it. The thing is that you still would have to go and take all those steps down to get to that point. So the thing is, you could be pushed, could be chemical driven, it could be your lifestyle driven, could be a lot of different things. But the genetic component is that he might have that room in his house, but I might not. It's more of a predisposition to a specific thing. And what's pretty incredible is, like, when we talk to patients in the consultation with different things that they're battling, when we talk about that to them, literally it kind of gives them a new hope for, oh wow, I'm not destined, like this thing isn't going to define me. And so we'll talk a little bit later about the specific interaction I had with one of our practice members about that exact conversation.
Yeah.
But that's where that kind of comes up.
Yeah. Scroll up a little bit. So cancer has almost unlimited reproductive cycles. And the other thing I want to remind you is that they're triggered by a lot of viral conditions. And so we do know that like Epstein-Barr and the cytomegalovirus and some of the others are motivators and mediators to trigger various types of cancers. So, you know, we do say that when this happens, we want to be really aware, and we want to be really tough on making sure that the viruses are stayed under control. So the traditional approach, like this chemotherapy, just essentially suppresses your immune system. So the first and the last line of defense is your immune system, and that's what we want to boost. So in the protocol that we developed, excuse me, scroll, baby, scroll. So this is the approach that we've developed to do this. Number one, we want to talk about the chiropractic adjustment. And so I'll go through these a little bit with you. Number two, we want to make healthy cells even healthier. We want to detoxify the body and the liver. We want to make dietary changes. We need to do mitochondrial therapy. We want to restore the normal flora in the intestine and the colon. A lot of the things that you guys sent me as cases that you asked me to look at all had to do with like gut problems. And there was a lady that wrote a book. Her name was Helga Clark. She wrote, it was the Cure for All Cancers was her book. And in her book, what she stated was every one that she evaluated, and I think it was about 10,000, every one of them had dysbiosis. So every one of them had a gut problem. So that was a really interesting thing. I had a good friend of mine who, or well, a colleague, let's say, but somebody I really was impressed with. And unfortunately, he was one of those natural healers that years ago you saw those guys kind of dying off and having bizarre ends. But his name was Dr. Gonzalez, and Dr. Gonzalez created the Kelly Gonzalez protocol. He told me, and this was about year 2000, that he had already personally had over 10,000 patients with cancer that he had resolved using digestive enzymes. How cool is that? Right? And proteolytic enzymes. So, you thought multizyme was just for, a tummy ache. It's a really powerful thing. And then we want to make sure that we get our essential oils. We want our antioxidants. We talked about the viruses. We keep our antiviruses. We enhance the immune system. We stop a blood flow going into that system. And then we also need to address the psychological and emotional component to this. So one of the things I want to talk about, so scroll down a little bit, is about boosting immunity through chiropractic. And so this is one of the things. So we're kind of in a funny time right now because with the COVID issues, there's been a lot of people that and chiropractic groups that don't want us speaking about this research, but it's still appropriate. And so, I guess you really can't put it out on the web and you can't talk about it. But the reality is what they did is they did this test in the New York Preventative Medicine. This was like in 1975. And what they did was they took these different groups of people and they were looking to see, they were using a measurement of DNA repairing enzymes. It's called thiol. And what they were looking at is they were looking at how much thiol was being produced in these people's bodies. And they looked at people that had all sorts of cancers and people that were doing all sorts of things for them. So whether they were doing chemotherapy or radiation or surgery or combinations of those, then they looked outside of that group and they looked at people that were doing chiropractic, doing nutrition, doing acupuncture, doing like fitness and exercise. Kind of bottom line, the chiropractic group was from 8 years old to 80. They were being adjusted once a week and their measurements started 3 months into care. And what this group found out was that the chiropractic people had a 200% greater immune competence than any of those other groups. And they were a 400% greater immune competence than any of the disease groups. So what does that really mean? That means that find me the healthiest person that you know. He or she eats right and she takes care of themselves and they exercise all the time and they have a great relationship with their family and God. And I can start adjusting you once a week, and then within 3 months, I can have your system 200% stronger than theirs. That's the bottom line. So what do we want for these people? We want to build their systems up, and it did not show any decline with age. Wow, that was huge, okay? So this is part of the data that we have. And again, there's some groups that want to deny that and argue with it, and that is what it is. I don't necessarily need to talk about that, but I do know for a fact that these people do have this crazy boost. So go on to the next screen, but I do want to talk a little bit about, well, hang on, before we go on to detoxification. I do want to talk about one of the relatively new findings that kind of changed the game. Actually, go ahead and pull up that picture about detoxification. So when we talk about detoxification, we're talking about how do we get poison wherever they came to you, whether it was pollution or was it a pesticide or was it a bad choice, how do we get that out of your body? Because what we understand, looking at a good system on the bottom and the bad one on the top, what it's supposed to do is pass right through the intestines and the feces. Now, what can pass through the intestinal lining is taken either by the bloodstream or the sewer system, but both of those go straight to the liver. And the liver's job is to change or detoxify that poison. So it does it in 2 steps. Step number 1, sucks all the fat out. Step number 2, that fat it has to go to water, and it becomes water. I got you. Somebody's mute somebody. But that droplet of water goes back in the bloodstream and the kidney takes all the water away. And that's how it's supposed to work. But in a system like the cancer patient, what we understand is that poison, that gut is so full, the dysbiosis is going on in the gut, this becomes like a leaky faucet. Sooner or later, these poisons come in as a fat, they can't be transformed, they come back out as a fat. Well, fat can't be taken away by a kidney, so the only thing it can do is store. So where's it going to store? It'll store in the liver itself, it'll store in fat storages, it'll store in the brain, or what it'll do is it'll get into the interstitial fluid. So in the interstitial fluid, that's really what we want to talk about, because the mechanism that we've always understood about this cancer activity was that poison is interstitial. It gets into the cell. It's attracted to the nucleus of the cell. And in the nucleus, that's where our DNA chain is, right? And so it scrambles the DNA. It's like a scrambled egg. You can't you can't unscramble a scrambled egg. And that was what the consciousness of cancer care was. And that's what we've always kind of considered that's the mechanism. Recently, and you can find this on Dr. McCullough's website. Do you remember what the article is called?
I don't. It was the mitochondria part.
Oh yeah, it was about mitochondrial dysfunction in cancer. But I mean, we can pull it up and then send it to Harmony if you want to see it. But essentially what they did in this research was pretty brilliant, because they took two cells, and in one cell, what they did is they had a cancer cell and a healthy cell. And now they've got the technology strong enough where they can actually remove the nucleus from the one and put it in the other. And so understanding this mechanism, you'd say, okay, so the nucleus that got the poison was the one that was damaged. And so they took that damaged nucleus out, stuck it inside the healthy cell, and what they expected was to find that becomes cancerous, but it didn't. And then they go, uh-oh. And then they went the reverse. They took the healthy nucleus out, they stuck it inside the unhealthy cell, and it made it sick. They go, uh-oh. So we got the right mechanism, but we got the wrong part. So they went back to the drawing board, and they came up with the idea of the mitochondria. Now, we talk about mitochondria here because in mitochondria, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, right? And when you pop open that powerhouse of the cell, inside are these little things that are like batteries, and they're called ribosomes. But ribosomes are the only part of our body that exclusively uses RNA as its genetic code. Now, why is that important? Because when you take an antibiotic is an indiscriminate killer. But how does it identify bacteria? Because bacteria exclusively use RNA. So an antibiotic is an RNA scavenger. It just looks for RNA. And once it can find RNA, it just destroys it. So imagine if you destroyed all the little ribosomes inside the mitochondria, there would be no power. Like, how good is your cell phone when it's out of power, right? It's like literally worthless. But when it's powered up, it can do all sorts of amazing things. And that's the same thing. And so that's why we've talked about it. So in this research, what they did was they went ahead and they took the mitochondria out of the sick cell and stuck it inside the healthy cell. And son of a gun, what did it do? It created that sickness inside that cell. And then they did the reverse just to prove, and they took a healthy mitochondria out and put it inside of a cancer cell, and guess what it did? It restored the integrity of the cell. So, go back a page. So, what does that mean? That means detoxifying that poison, 2 pages, is critically important. But the other thing that's going to be enormously important is mitochondrial therapy, right? And getting that mitochondria rejuvenated. And we want to rejuvenate it, not just a slow, easy process. Boy, we want to do this in a quantum way. We want to get this baby done. One of my favorite things is cellular vitality. That's one of my absolute favorite in this situation category. Okay, so let's scroll down a little bit. Now, just as Scotty's getting us to where we want to go, I do want to share a couple of things with you. Again, we don't treat cancer. We treat what causes it, right? So we understand that there's 2 things that are going to happen in every cancer situation. Number 1 is toxicity. There's always something there that doesn't belong. And number 2 is deficiency. There's something that's not supposed, that they're supposed to, something that's supposed to be there that's not there, okay? So we want to identify what that toxic part is, and we want to also feed the body so that it can do its own job. In this job and in this adventure, we've had some pretty phenomenal results. One I want to share with you. Will you put up? Yeah. Okay. One, I want to show you this. So in our office, we have these things. We call them chalkboards. And let me make sure you can see it. There we go. Hang on. Okay. So this was done by this particular lady, Juliana. Juliana gave birth. A week or so after she gave birth, she went to take her child in to get checked, and the new baby checkup, and the doctor said, your baby's fine, but you have cancer spread throughout your whole body. Yeah, how devastating would that be? Okay, so it was crazy because almost a dozen different people told her within that week that she had to find Dr. Cooper. And the day that she finally called, one of her best friends came to see her, and she said, yeah, all these people are telling me about Dr. Cooper. And this girl's like, I know him. His wife was my instructor. He spoke in my class. You got to go see him. So she came, and we evaluated her, and we, gave her the options of what we could do. And we told her, we're not going to treat your cancer. That's for the oncologist, but we're going to treat the reason why this is happening. And these are the things that happened with her. Number one, she got to do a chalkboard, because one of the things that very first happened was her white blood cells had dropped significantly, and they dropped well behind 700. 1100 is like low. 1100 is like that's bad. 700 is terrible. But she boosted her white blood cells from 700 to 1300 in 1 week of being adjusted. How crazy is that? And I liked her, and I said, what do you want to tell everybody? She said, I am faithful and I live a chiropractic lifestyle. That was her story. Now, as we went on, her cancer resolved. And it took her about 6 to 8 weeks before her cancer was resolved. And as a matter of fact, her oncologist was a little blown away by it because he had never seen anything like this. But he still, because of continuity of care or standard of care,
yeah.
He wanted to take her through all 12 chemo treatments. And she was very depressed and upset about it. But I said, you know what? We're just going to clean up the environment while we do that. At the same time, her husband plays professional football, and he played for the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills gave her husband, Kyle, this beautiful trophy, which is the Courage Award, because what Kyle did was when he came with us for his first day, her second day, and her third day, was after her third day, he said, I feel comfortable enough that I can go to work, and I can go play, and I can go to Buffalo, and I can go to work, and I feel like she's in the right hands, and we'll get this done. Right?
Yeah.
And that's courage. And this is the trophy. And just so you know, tomorrow, CBS Channel 2 and Channel 9 are coming to our office and doing an interview with myself and Kyle, the football player, and his wife, Juliana, so that everybody can see about this trophy and why he won it and what we were able to do and accomplish with her, right? That's the kind of stuff you can do. How cool is that, right? So now let's go back. I was hoping you'd let me keep the trophy in my house for a little bit. I'm not sure that happens. All right, so we're going to make some dietary changes. And mainly, the biggest thing everybody asks me is they ask me about protein. And do I have to become a vegetarian? And, if you want to get to a vegan type of diet, that's not a bad thing. But here's the reality. You don't have to be a vegetarian, but the animal you ate had to have been a vegetarian. So that means we only eat grass-fed beef, right? We would only eat lamb. Lamb can't eat grain. They'll die if they eat grain. They only eat grass. Chicken, turkey, all of those things are going to be GMO-free. Those are going to be hormone-free. They're going to be range-free, eggs, range-free. These are the kinds of things we want. But the biggest thing of all is about sugar. So all sugar is eliminated. All fruit and all fruit juice is eliminated. Now, I'll remind you that, and you learned this way back in biochemistry, that fruit turns into fructose. But fructose will not create ATP. So fructose, fruit, will not give you energy. Okay? So when we eliminate the fruit and we eliminate the fruit juice, that's a huge amount of sugar that we're just depleting out of the diet. Okay? Next page. So now what we want to do is we want to start restoring normal flora. So we want to start with the probiotic, right? We want to put that friendly, good, healthy bacteria in the body. We want to eliminate things like all the different forms of sugars, all the steroidal and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, any estrogenic drugs, right? Now remember, estrogenic, what other things are estrogenic? Well, BPA. And how do we get BPA? Put plastic in the microwave and heat it up. That creates BPA. That's estrogenic, right? And remember, Johns Hopkins Medical College back in Baltimore, they discovered that it was some crazy percentage, like over 90% of women with breast cancer, it was due to the estrogenic effects of BPA. It was due to plastic and plastic water bottles that you left in your car and then they got hot, or plastic that you're heating up in the microwave. Or the other culprit we're finding right now is salt, because where we dispose of sugar in the world is in the ocean. And now there's thousands upon thousands of microbeads of plastic in salt. And that's why, we've gone to just Himalayan sea salt exclusively. You don't even use white salt anymore.
Do you want to talk about some of the products you use for some of those things?
Some of the products that I would use for this, like the ProSymbiotic is a great product. Lactens is a great product. They just brought out a new GI stability that's got prebiotics and probiotics. And so that's a really great product. That would be something that would be really functional to use if you're looking for how can I do this? Okay. Resveratrol. What a great product to use. Resveratrol does come from red wine. Steve was saying no starchy vegetables. Our new GI stability is the bomb. Rodman's salt out of Utah is a great salt product. I've heard of that. I haven't yet done the study on that, but I fully agree. This is the Kelly Gonzalez protocol. I was telling you about this with my buddy that unfortunately has not survived. But he saved a lot of lives. And what he uses, he did use enzymes, proteolytic enzymes, very specifically to attack the cancer. So when you take an enzyme with food, it breaks down the food. You take it on an empty stomach, it breaks down the tumor. Right? And then the other thing that's a big heavy hitter, you want a home run right now, inositol. So remember, inositol is a B vitamin, but what does it really do? It's a sugar sponge. It just soaks it up. Holy moly. Now you also might have that person that's a craver. And they go, oh, I just crave sweets. That's the person I would use gymnema for, because that gymnemic acid will help us stop that crave. It'll stop that influx of sugar all the time. But I love inositol to, it's a great scavenger. It just starves the tumor. We're going to build up prostaglandin. We want to build up our EPA, our GLA, our essential oils. I test each oil very specifically for what it does and who it's best for. But the one I want to remind you of that's just such a home run hitter, another one, Super EFF, right? So by show of hands, who's used Super EFF? Yeah, there you go. So you know what they call Super EFF? They call it the chromosomal protector. because what it's got the capacity to do is to protect the cell that's right next to that one that's got the tumor. So you want to stop a tumor from spreading, Super EFF is your key that keeps that from spreading. How dynamite is that, right? But we also have things like Tune Omega, which I love, right? That person's a little bit anxious, right? That would kind of stand to reason. Tune Omega is at that 5-to-1 ratio. And remember, that was the one that they used to took people that were like severely depressed and anxious, and they were able to subside like all their symptoms in like 30 days using a 5-to-1 oil, right? So that's a phenomenal oil to use. And then we also have our GLA product, black currant seed oil. Awesome. Antioxidants. So turmeric, turmeric. You gotta love turmeric forte. There's just nothing like it. That will attack the tumor. That will stop activity. It's phenomenal. We have all sorts of different vitamin C's. We got Cataplex E and Cataplex E2, which is tremendous. The product's making glutathione. So glutathione, dark green leafy vegetables, right? So you've got your cruciferous complete. You got chlorophyll. That's another amazing one. You got SP green food. Remember, glutathione protects the brain. It protects the blood-brain barrier. Whereas Tylenol will poke holes in that blood-brain barrier, glutathione will correct that blood-brain barrier. There was a message. Oh, Dr. Goodhart helped develop Super EFF. That's really cool. So Paul Fisher said that Super EFF protects the myelin sheath, cellular vitality, B complex, folate, CoQ10, RNA, broad range of great antioxidants and enzymes. I fully agree with that. Love that. Love the ginkgo. Love the resveratrol OPC synergy. One of my favorite things. I tell my wife I'm getting a little shot of red wine and she doesn't even know. Antivirals. I got to tell you, there's a lot of antivirals. We use Immunoplex like it's going out of style, but my favorite by far, absolutely without any question, has got to be Endographis. And in the Medi herb line, Endographis comes from a plant called Endographis paniculata. Endographis is a very cool thing. It's a Chinese botanical, and what it is it's a scavenger. And it's a scavenger for the virus. And yeah, I've seen the craziest conditions ever recover with Endographis. Don't be afraid to use that. In today's society, Immunoplex and Endographis, definitely two of our number one and number two best products we use.
Yeah, Immunoplex, we're using so much of that. Like everyone wants Immunoplex.
Yeah.
And they take it daily.
Yeah, exactly. Anti-angiogenic factors. What does that mean? That means that the challenge with the cancer is it creates its own blood supply. So the one thing we want to be conscious of is how do we stop that blood supply? And so there's a couple of things. You might have heard of like shark cartilage. That'll do. The GMO-free soy concentrate. So we have that soy lecithin. That's a great product. But the high cruciferous diet, so right, cruciferous complete, that's a great thing. And the chemical we get out of those cruciferous vegetables is indole-3-carbinol. And indole-3-carbinol is the switch that switches between your body making the estrogen that's sleek and fast and cool versus making that big heavy one that looks like you're driving like a truck and you're ready to park for the circus to come to town. Right, so you get to decide. You want to drive the Maserati, you want to drive the circus truck, right? So indole-3-carbinol is the switch that switches back and forth, and it's the one that helps us create normal estrogen, and it's a scavenger of plastic toxicity, right? And that what we find in cruciferous complete, SP green food, chlorophyll.
You say SP green food, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That was what I was thinking.
And then we increase our dietary fiber. So whether you use gastrofiber if you're a little looser in bowels, or you use whole food fiber. Remember what that fiber will do is bind to those big estrogens. It'll bind to those big hormones and it'll start pulling them out. So, again, we always want to be concerned about those massive estrogens and those massive hormones that just overwhelm the liver. and just slow the liver down. And so, how do we bind that stuff? We bind it with that. Scroll down. And then again, you know what, we need to talk about how do we handle stress. Meditation is a big thing. I also specialize in some neuroemotional techniques. The one that I'm really good at is called BEST, bioenergetic synchronization technique. You might have heard of network or NET. Those are all great things. Craniosacral technique is another one that I use. But this is that mind-body connection, and that's bringing your spirituality back into play. So this is the protocol that we use. And if this is something that you would like at home or you'd like in the office to see, then happy to share with you. Can you grab me those pictures of Mike?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll do. So
I put up. This was the her nutrition sheets. I don't know if there's any other.
So looking at the gal Juliana, hang on, gotta drink water. Okay. Harmony, whenever you take this break, do that little doo, 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 like that little funny sound. So with Juliana, in her first nutritional protocol, what we found the issue with dysbiosis. So she had a parasite. So we used wormwood, and then we used Spanish black radish. Now we're going to talk about Spanish black radish with, I think, Dr. Brad Hannon, because he sent in a pretty severe case. But there's a big question I have to him about Spanish black radish. But we used liver kidney detoxifier, burdock complex. Remember burdock, if you've ever heard of SEXT, burdock, that's where that comes from. Pretty powerful, cool stuff. AC carbamide, I love that. AC carbamide is basically Drano for the lymph nodes. It's vitamin A, it's vitamin C, right? Vitamin A is great for skin and tubes. Vitamin C is a scavenger for poison. But carbamide just is like lymphatic Drano. The probiotic, the digestive enzyme, multizyme. We use Super AFF with her, Cruciferous Complete, Immunoplex, and then the other one was Turmeric Forte. And like I said, then we got her condition pretty well under control within 6 to 8 weeks. So, and I want to talk to you about Mike. And I told you a bit about Mike just a couple of months ago. I just want to make sure these are in order. And Mike was the guy that was referred to us. His daughter knew us personally. They live in Baltimore, Maryland. He had skin cancer, and now it reoccurred. And when it reoccurred, it also affected his parotid gland. And so as a result now, John Hopkins Medical Center wanted to remove his whole mandible. Right? Well, what are you going to do without a mandible? Right? And so, whereas that wasn't really my favorite choice, he and I had this discussion over the phone about what things we could do to help him and guide him and get him to the right oncologist. And again, if you need a recommendation to the oncologist that we use, they're in Santa Monica. Guy's name is Peter Mosberg. He's really dynamite, and he works hand in hand with us. And that's what's super cool, right? But we see these reactions. So with Mike, as we started making adjustments, then what we started to see is these changes with his face. So what his family did for me is they started taking pictures so that we could actually see, like, oops, wrong one, where the tumor is, and then how it progressed week by week. And what it actually did, when you look at this one on my hand here, is it actually created a little bit of a hole. Well, what it turned out is that when they did that first surgery, that hole, they grafted skin right over it. What's that? Yeah. So, this side.
Yep.
Right. And so once the skin moved, literally this hole was empty. There was nothing in there. I mean, it was so deep, it was unbelievable. And then as that thing healed and as it progressed, as that tumor started to change, week by week, this thing started to make its change. So now here, and then again, all this time, he's on the same protocol, working with us. And as you can see how just over time, this thing motivates through all of its capacities to make this change. Now, you see on this last picture right here, sorry, I'm having a hard time, it's a little backwards, but he's got an eye patch on. I had to send him over for an MRI with contrast and reacted to the contrast, and it ended up giving him Bell's palsy. And so that's been a little frustrating, but I mean, had we not had Bell's palsy, I mean, this guy'd be like amazing, perfect already. So again, as we go through what that tumor site has done, how it went so absolutely deep, and then it filled itself back in, and now it's kind of filled itself all the way in. When I looked at him this last week, you couldn't even see that. That was completely gone.
I have his nutrition.
Oh, okay. And so for his nutrition,
That was his newest one.
okay. I'm not sure what well, so on the newest one, we used neurotrophin because we're really trying to repair that Bell's palsy. We used the parotid PMG, dermatrophin. We used Zymex for the gut, Livtin complex for his liver, probiotic, the cellular vitality, inositol, super EFF, turmeric forte, Catablex D. He needed Catablex D. The soybean lecithin, and AC carbamide. And then for pain, we used like the liquid California poppy and valerian when he needed to do that. So that was pretty cool. So we've had some pretty remarkable results. And again, the biggest thing for me is, we spent a lot of time in doing research on this program, and it's very, very functional. And it's something I think that you can easily step into and make work. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the concussion
I think maybe
things, but we also have.
do you want to do the concussion maybe next time and then go into the cases we were sent?
Okay. Can you pull those up somewhere?
Yes.
So let's talk about some of the cases that came up. Dr. Brad Hannon from, I think they're in Hesperia, sent a really, really powerful case, a real tough case that he's been working on for several years. And I'll just give you a little background. So actually, I'll have Scott do it because there's no way I can see that here.
It's a long thing. Do you want me to read this whole thing?
Yeah, give him some background.
Okay.
And anybody who wants to chime in on this, absolutely happy to do this.
Okay. So I'm reading it from my computer right here. So the patient is male in his 30s, had been adjusted from a young age, hardly ever got sick, generally was very healthy, perfect attendance awards all the time at school, took vitamins, only had 2 antibiotics their whole life. Approximately 6 years ago, they were feeling the best they had ever felt. They had been doing like the 21-day detox. They'd done a lot of those other things. He'd gone to a trip to Colorado and complained of different issues with that would disrupt his sleep and feel tired. And he'd wake up at 3 a.m. for like almost every night for months and years. He thought he might have been bitten by a tick or something like that. So they had thought of parasites, and they'd done multiple rounds of numerous anti-parasite herbs and supplements, but things didn't improve. The patient felt very stressed for no obvious reason, particularly at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., for which they focused on B vitamins and balancing blood sugars. They began taking supplements for the adrenal support with little improvement. They did some labs and found candida and many IgG and IgE food allergies and sensitivities. They did a lot of rounds of candida, gut dysbiosis, diets and herbs and supplements, and then leaky gut, different protocols and helped a little bit, mostly with brain fog. They did the stealth pathogen protocol, which helped slightly, but the itching, pain, stress, night sweats, and fatigue continued. The stress increased. He broke a few toes on both feet. Patient felt that the chest, sternum, rib pain, felt either as his head or heart was going to explode. Still waking up every day at 3 a.m. They began a new protocol for parasites, and after 2 months, he passed 2 8 to 10 inch worms. Itching and TMJ complaints reduced to where he could sleep better, but it still persists. After going through many supplements, etc., without much improvement, they had him go to a local muscle tester for about a year. The NRT doctor said he kept testing for parasites, large than small, said he wasn't testing for Lyme. They had tried a heavy metal detox, vitamin D supplements, drops and sprays, numerous anti-inflammatory protocols, with different turmeric products, boswellia, fish oil, blackcurrant seed oil. He'd been on Thymex, Imuplex, Echinacea, Cataplex C, Cataplex AC, Andrographis. And his palms and skin would turn yellow easily if he consumed carrots on too many consecutive days. Found the following products were somewhat helpful: boswellia, hemp oil, rhodiola and ginseng, bacopa, RNA, and ginkgo, but echinacea makes the TMJ tight. The general symptoms occur at 11:30, but sometimes more at 1:30 p.m. They feel fatigue, mostly behind the eyes, but also the whole body. Feeling of just needing to lay down, blurred vision, heavy eyes, headache, neck stiffness, dizzy, brain fog, difficulties with word and speech, easily overwhelmed and stressed. January this year, they did a bottle of Para 1 and Para 2, which resulted in another couple of 8 to 10 inch worms passing in the stool. Since then, the itching has decreased, but still present. Continues to struggle with good, deep, restorative sleep, which is better but not great. Wakes up easily with sounds and often has shoulder or hip pain that causes him to roll over. The slightly better sleep has resulted in more energy, less pain, and less stress feeling. Regular sauna usage has helped. Generally eats meat and vegetables, few grains and fruits. Finds that with fruits, he now gets reactions like tender taste buds on the tongue, and with grains, he'll feel more brain fog and joint pain. We've tested saliva cortisol 2 times, which is fairly normal. Tested for multiple viruses for which Epstein-Barr was present but not active. Patient has elevated lipo, MTHFR variant. Any thoughts?
Yes. So, no, send me your hard ones. Yeah. So, and if you have thoughts, toss them up there. I like to see what you got that comes up. Here's what I thought of. When he talked about the 11 o'clock, the 11:30 and 5 o'clock, those are very specific times. And my brain went immediately to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is very specific to timer. It's your biological timer. The other thing that I thought about on this scenario was they said several different times they had parasites. Now, we talked about in the cancer protocol about the PET scan. You take a picture, you can't tell if the bug's alive or dead. But here's the other thing you need to know about a parasite. A parasite is as deadly to you dead as it is alive, because the outer wall and the guts of the parasite, let's say you hit it with wormwood or Zymex 2 or whatever you want to use as an antiparasitical, and you blow that thing apart, its debris is as toxic as everything else, and that debris is going to go to the brain. So my initial thought on this absolutely is every single time we do a parasite program, we have to use Spanish black radish. Spanish black radish picks up the debris. That's what it does. Now, I'll tell you just kind of a funny story. We had a lady that was here that one time she came and she was really melancholy that day. And she's like, Dr. Cooper, I'm thinking today's my last day. Like, what do you mean your last day? She's like, I just think this is my last day. And I'm like, well, like, is your care plan over? Like, what do you mean? She goes, no, I think I'm dying today. I'm like, why would you think that? She goes, I don't know. She was just this overwhelming feeling. And I kind of scratched my head and I thought to her, and I asked her, I go, are you on a parasite program? She said, yes. And I said, have you been taking Spanish black radish? She goes, oh no, I ran out last week. I'm supposed to pick it up today. I'm like, please take your Spanish black radish. You're feeling what the parasite was feeling. The parasite was getting killed. Now you feel like you're getting killed. The parasite was dying, and now you feel like you're dying. Right? So that's a true story. So my feeling number one was I would evaluate Spanish black radish. That would be my first go-to. I would consider continuing on. If you're getting 8 to 10 inch parasites, there's going to be a bunch of those in there. I forget what's that guy. I can't think of the doctor that's the parasite guru. I can't think of his name right now. But I did read where he said that parasites are more active on a full moon. If you really, really, really want to get them, you would use like a garlic. So Spanish black radish, essentially in the garlic family, just doesn't make you stinky. But you could use like a garlic enema, and that'll just like be a bomb, and it'll explode those things, and they'll come out in like serious numbers. But we did have a lady that had a 3-foot long parasite eliminated after that. Yeah, like everybody's going like this, right? So a 3-foot long parasite eliminated after that, and that freaked her out enough to where she had a panic attack and went to the hospital. But so just know if you're going to do that, that's what's going to come out. So that my first thought really would be Spanish black radish, and I would continue to investigate the parasite program.
I was going to say continue the parasite.
Right. So now there was another one. You go to that very first one. There's another one that was talking about.
Oh, the plantar fasciitis one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to read that one?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay. So very specific issues. One, I've been dealing with an issue where after serious diet changes, crazy restrictions, medical intervention, adjustments, and by several other friends, prayer, acupuncture, massage, supplements, still after 4 years, have an unexplained pain to the upper right abdomen. Affects gallbladder, liver, stomach, and digestion. The question is it my spine/nerve damage? Is it a rib out of alignment? Inflammation? No one knows. After the massage, I was very bruised. Second, I have also not fully explained either a very bad case of plantar fasciitis or it's another back issue that causes my feet to hurt really bad, and sometimes it's bad enough to keep me from walking. Again, I've tried everything we know. It's been about 7 years.
7 years. Okay. So, excuse me. So the very first thing I would think about on that first scenario is, I don't know what she meant or he meant about medical intervention, but I would definitely be looking at blood work, and I'd be looking at what the BUN level is. And you remember BUN, the BUN is essentially your ejection fraction. So it's how much bile are you able to squirt out of that gallbladder and get into digestion. And when it's clogged or that common bile duct is tight and you're just not getting that in, you're going to have a lot of problems with the gallbladder. You're going to have a lot of problems with the liver, and that's exactly what you're talking about. So my first gut instinct would be evaluate the gallbladder. What I would use if indeed I found that ejection fraction was our problem is a phosphate liquid. And that stuff's amazing. So phosphate liquid, typically it's about 20 drops several times a day, but phosphate liquid will help that vessel dilate. So then we've got more room. We don't have to have that real high pressure in there. We do actually use that when people are battling through gallstones. That's one of the ones that really do make a big deal and a big help. That's what I would look at. Plantar fasciitis was the other one. They said it was about 7 years. Obviously, you know, we understand that hips, knees, ankles, and feet are a kinematic chain. So we want to evaluate each one of those levels and make sure that, you know, the tibia is in line with the femur, that the fibular head is where it belongs, that, you know, the talus is in position where it belongs. One of the things in our situation, what we do is we, number one, would scan the feet to look for places on the feet that are like where the foot's pronated and how seriously pronated it would be. One of the, you know, super easy home remedies for plantar fasciitis is either a golf ball and sitting for 2 minutes and rolling out the golf ball and, you know, allowing us to get that arch back, or even taking like a water bottle and freezing it and putting it on a towel and for like 2 minutes per foot, seated, not standing. We don't need to bruise your foot, but to roll out that plantar fasciitis, that plantar fascia. We as chiropractors realize that the L4, L5 particularly is the nerve that goes down to like that bottom area. So we're always really keenly aware when we're dealing with that, that's an area that we're adjusting. It sounds like you were getting adjusted, or you get adjusted pretty regularly. So I'm kind of thinking that might be it. In real severe cases,
What's the part that Dr. Moses,
yeah,
he works on that has helped that too.
Yeah, we do have a doctor on our team, Dr. Moses, that's really an extremity. He's an extremity whiz. And, you know, if you guys ever have like knee problems of your own that you want to have come evaluated, give us a call, come over, we'll happy to let him play with you. He's really good at that. So I do kind of turn a lot of that stuff over to him. Yeah. But the other therapy I would use with plantar fascia would be either a cold laser, or I would use ultrasound.
Was that also a ligoplex type of thing?
Yeah, so nutritionally, Ligoplex is a great choice. Since your speaker's not working. All right, Ligoplex is a great choice. Ligoplex 2 is for the chronic condition. Ligoplex 1 is for the acute condition. Glucosamine sulfate would be one that we could use. We could look into like MyoPlus, even Montrophin. Those are all good choices too. And then also the anti-inflammatory type of things. I like hemp oil. I like Tumor Forte. Remember, if you use Boswellia, it's 40% more effective if you take it with food. So Boswellia has to be with food, or Tumor Forte can be like anytime.
What cardiotropin?
Cardiotropin and myotropin, same thing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then we got one other case that was sent, and that was a big case with blood work and all. And honestly, I just didn't have enough time to really be able to dive into that one fully. That one was as convoluted as the very first one. The biggest thing I saw with that though was, you know, there's a lot of thyroid issues and there was a lot of cholesterol issues with this person. And typically when TSH goes up, cholesterol goes down, and they're kind of inverse of one another, but that wasn't necessarily happening in this case. So my question would always be then, I would go back to pituitary. That would be my thoughts. Like, where are these hormones coming from in the first place? But like I said, I just didn't have the opportunity to kind of dive into all of that as well.
Yeah, Steve said if you want, you could talk to them about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to that doctor.
All right,
so
perfect.
I have his email address on there, so you could talk
perfect.
to them.
Okay. Is there any on the sidebar that you want to see? Thank you guys for checking in and punching stuff in. I do like that. Is everybody else's audio working? You
It just
it?
got like glitchy for a second. You're kind of like breaking up. Seems like when Scotty's closer to the camera or something, it's like, I don't know if a cell phone's near the computer or is a cell phone near the camera or anything.
No. It might be that white shirt though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, maybe it's the white shirt.
Be the white shirt. Well, I had intended, so an hour is just kind of a short time to be able to kind of give you guys everything that I want to give you. The one thing that really I was hoping to be able to get to tonight was both the cancer protocol and the concussion protocol. So what we might have to do is have to find another time that we talk about concussion and about what things we would need to do to help you when you come into that arena. But there's a lot of great stuff, and I can just tell you very clearly without any hesitation that the current treatment for concussion that's out there is completely antiquated, and it does not follow any bit of research at all. And the biggest thing that's in the research says that non-steroidal anti-inflammatories is absolutely resolution toxic. That's what they call it. They call it resolution toxic. And that, the biggest thing is, you're going to hear that person's had a concussion, they went to the hospital, they got checked out, they got the CT scan. The CT scan said, no brain bleed, and they celebrated. And, the doctor said, well, take some Tylenol. Yeah, and that's absolutely the worst possible scenario you can go into. Because again, that acetaminophen will just poke holes in that blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is already susceptible. It becomes susceptible within about 3 hours. It can stay very permeable for about 7 days. And again, this is why such a huge percentage of people with concussions, like almost 30 to 33% of people with concussions, end up with adrenal fatigue and adrenal overwhelm. So like within a few days, they're just completely frazzled. And these are part of it. But the quick take home for tonight is non-steroidal anti-inflammatories with the concussion is completely resolution toxic. And I will share that with you. If we get invited back, I'll and share that with you and show you the research and where we found it and so forth. Yeah. Is that cool?
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Steve says you're invited, so there you go. There you have it. Plus, that's one of, you have a whole concussion program at this point, don't you, in your practice?
Yeah, so we actually just had two NFL players start with us the last couple weeks, just because they had heard about what we do with that. And one, I'd probably put both of them on my fantasy team next year because they're going to be doing a lot better. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the one guy said to me, he goes, "Is it possible that my brain could be working better instantly?" I said, yes, that's definitely a possibility.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I look forward to hearing that too, because I know that's something you're really passionate about. I took pages of, I couldn't write fast enough tonight, so I'm going to definitely be watching this recording over. If anybody's got any last minute questions, send them in. We can send them over to you guys. And then it looks like we'll be doing, there we go. A sports performance piece from you would be great.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Maybe we'll just do a whole sports thing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Right. Yeah.
Totally.
All right. So then also watch, I'm not sure when it's going to air. Maybe I'll shoot over to you when we find out when our interview is going to air on CBS Channel 2 and KCAL 9.
Yes, let us know.
Really a good feel-good story about sports while there's not a whole lot of sports going on. And, it's a good feel-good for all of us that do functional medicine and do chiropractic and, love and take care of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, you'll have to give us the info on that. We'll send it out to everyone.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, tell me.
No, I said I'll send that out to you tomorrow.
Oh, okay, perfect. You have the info already.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'll send out that information with the recording of Catalyst. So it'll be a Cooper's bundle there. And will you have his, I don't know what that, a CA protocol? I'll have to clarify that.
Protocol? Yeah, we can send you the cancer protocol that we presented here.
Okay.
And then you can disseminate that. And then, on this protocol too, if you're kind of like me who really likes references, these are 110 different references to absolutely everything that we're talking about. So everything that I showed you, everything that I said has been actually found in research, and most of it is all peer-reviewed research. So, you know, I like that. That to me is proof of the pudding.
No, that's amazing. Well, that would be incredible, an incredible resource to hand out. And if you have additional questions, please, you know, email them in to us, your reps. All of, you know, SPLA team is super knowledgeable, and we're happy to help with any other cases you may be, you know, feeling challenged with in your practice. And I'm just, thank you guys so much. This was a great, even though we weren't live in person, it was incredible. So thank you.
So we agreed to this time because Steve said there would be food, right? That's what.
Oh my gosh.
Food
It was
changes
all a
everything.
ploy. And then just 2 days before, we're like, oh.
Yeah.
Well,
So
if we can do this
Just
live,
kidding.
I'm totally good with that. We got plenty of room.
Yeah.
I think.
Well,
we'll
we
have-
look forward to being live in person. Everybody look out for the email with the recording and the info for their TV moment. Jeez. And again, like I said, reach out with any questions. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week, even with the new restrictions in place. And here's to a happy, healthy Friday and weekend.
All right,
Thank
Doctor.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Stay humble and communicate. Communicate well.
Cool.
Yes.
And
Bye.
shout out to my team, Life West, for
There you
making it out
go.
for this. So it's
I
all
know there's a whole.
There you go. Gotta like
Love
that.
it.
Take care,
Thank
you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.